Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'm joined by Jim Garrity of National Review. Jim, earlier today I had on EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, and he's a good guy, doing a lot of good stuff. They've got, well, according to AI, they've got 17,000 employees. Lee says they've got it down to 16,000. He's heading to 12,500. I asked him if he could get below 10,000, and he kind of waved that off. Russ Vought gets entire authority over the federal government if they shut down. Under the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, he can do RIFs everywhere. What do you want Russ Vought to do, and do you think the EPA can do it with 10,000 or less?
Well, Lee Zeldin does not strike me as the kind of guy who's going to keep unneeded employees around. I do think this was a major factor in the frustrations of Elon Musk, that he was coming in as Doge, wanted to make cuts left and right, and found that other people in the Trump administration, now that they were newly in charge of a particular federal department, were not eager to fire lots of people. Like, wait a minute, those are my employees. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to have all these people in order to achieve what my agency is supposed to do. I couldn't give you a number, Hugh. I'd have to look at the EPA. I feel like it would be kind of arbitrary to pick how many they need. I think Zeldin.
It was arbitrary for me, but I was trying to push on the idea of, are we really down to being skinny? Because I think Vought, who, by the way, I'm told by John Campbell, his former boss, that Russ Vought is the smartest guy he ever hired. So he's got an axe and he's got a pencil and he's got a razor blade. I think if Chuck Schumer shuts this government, the federal employee workforce is going to be radically diminished, regardless of what the agency heads think. What do you think?
Earlier today in the corner, I said that the Democrats are marching into a box canyon, and I hope people understand that metaphor. It's not a good thing to do.
No, they don't yet. We don't watch Westerns anymore. Explain.
So, basically you walk into a box canyon, you are surrounded on three sides with elevated position, making it very easy for your opponent to beat the hell out of you. Look, Chuck Schumer, by not forcing a government shutdown fight earlier this year, everybody said he was a wimp. Everybody said he was a noodle-spined squish who wasn't willing to stand up to Trump, etc. And clearly that stings Chuck Schumer. Clearly that, Democrats are running against the current leadership in the Senate primaries that are going, the nascent summer Senate primaries that are going on right now. Nobody likes that. Chuck Schumer does not like to be the punching bag. He does not like to be the piñata. So he wants to show, oh, I'm willing to have a fight. I'll show you that fight. Even though, if you have this fight, lots of federal workers, get sent home, if they're not essential. Those who are essential don't get paid until the government shutdown gets resolved. They do get their back pay. Listeners should not convince themselves that government shutdowns are a good way to save money. But they're going to, at this point, like the longest government shutdown ever was in 2018, 2019, when Trump was like, you know what, fine, I'm not giving up any ground. And, he ended up negotiating with Nancy Pelosi when she was majority leader instead of, or when the Democrats had a majority instead of when Republicans had a majority. So Trump don't get into a game of chicken with Trump. He's perfectly happy to keep the government shut down as long as it takes. And government employees are generally Democrats. Oh, by the way, Hugh, which state that am I in right now that has a gubernatorial
Virginia.
Race, right? Yep. If you're Abigail Spanberger, which one? Spanberger's ahead right now. I looked
up. Who is?
Abigail Spanberger is ahead in the polling. But I think a government shutdown that would start on October 1st and continue God knows when, conceivably all the way through Election Day, at a time when Senate Democrats would be the ones saying, no, we're not going to stop filibustering a spending bill. I don't know if that could cost her the gubernatorial election. It just becomes a new giant X factor. And I figure if you're Spanberger, you don't want that. You don't want this new other factor that could, have a whole bunch of Northern Virginia government employees irritated with Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats. Yeah, so I'm not going to say, oh, the government's going to shut down. This is going to make Winsome Earl Sears the governor. I just think it's a new unknown into this that if I'm Spanberger, I'd rather not have.
I want to go back to Spanberger and Winsome Sears in just a second, but I went and looked up the rules on RIFs, reduction in forces. An employee must receive a notice 60 days before they're fired forever. So I think Trump's going to sit. I think Vote's going to send the notice on day one, and I think Trump's going to wait for 61 days, fire everyone, and then or start to fire people, and see what happens to Schumer when he crumbles, because he's going to lose this fight. I don't think there's any way he can win.
Well, I was going to say one of the other big problems here is what would Democrats be able to get as a concession from Trump that would make them feel like, yes, we won this fight. I know they want 1.5 trillion in spending, and they're not going to get that, right? But basically, to the typical grassroots Democrat, the problem is not just ICE enforcement or just spending issues or just foreign policy or their ultimate problem is that they don't think Trump should be president. Well, guess what? That's going to be the case, barring some tragedy. He's going to be president until January 20th, 2029. So whatever they get, they're going to say Schumer should have gotten more. So there is no outcome to this government shutdown fight that makes lots of Democrats in the grassroots say, wow, heck of a job, Chuck Schumer. We're really proud of you.
All right, now I want to switch subjects to the murders in Dallas yesterday after the assassination of Charlie, after all the other political violence. Has any legacy media outlet, to your knowledge, done an attempt to categorize incidents of political violence, get rid of the stuff that's not political violence, which is schizophrenia or other mental disease, and categorize them by left-right ideology? Has anyone done the work?
No, and I have two problems. One is that I still see people referring to the assassination of the Minnesota state lawmakers, or the one assassinated, one attempted assassinated, as a right-wing violence. And this guy believed that Tim Walz had told him to do it because Tim Walz, wanted to be a senator. I think that guy is better characterized as a garden variety nut with all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories than a
Correct.
Right-wing figure, right? That's problem number one.
He had done some pro-life speaking in Africa,
Yeah.
which is why we get he's a pro-life absolutist, but in fact, he's a nut.
Yeah. Hugh, I am struck by the people who believe that his statement to the police should not count as his motive when he's telling them that. Similarly, I was kind of struck by the New Hampshire Attorney General saying that the gunman who shot up the country club allegedly had shouted "Free Palestine," and they said that they did not believe that was a factor in the shooting. Now, maybe this guy was a disgruntled employee. It's just weird to see law enforcement saying, don't pay attention to what the guy was shouting while he was shooting people. The second case is I've seen a chart from The Economist that is measuring events, not number of people hurt or killed by different forms of political violence. And one of the first thing that jumps out at you on this chart, which goes back to the 1990s, is it would have you believe that in the year 2001, there was only one mass casualty event driven by extremism, and it was right-wing extremism. Now, Hugh, I know, I seem to remember something back in like September 2001.
Yeah, it was on the air 8 hours that day. Okay, so we're not going to trust The Economist to do this. Maybe National Review's Morning Jolt will do it. Maybe the Washington Post, where Jim has a column, will do it. Maybe the 3-martini lunch will. Maybe it'll be a 6-martini lunch, and you can march through them. Kavanaugh, softball, field shooting, 2 on Trump. Maybe Jim Garrity will do it. Thank you, Jim. Follow him on X at Jim Garrity. Follow me in the next segment on The Hugh Hewitt Show.